Well, thank you all for joining, especially with the weather delays and changes that adds to your already busy schedules. But I am really grateful that you are choosing to spend time here with us. I'm pretty disappointed that we aren't together in community, but thought it was still important to share the information just so that we can continue our learning and our strategy development. So, for any newcomers, my name is Jennifer Sco. I work on strategic projects in Arlington and been coordinating digital equity activities over the last couple of years. So this coalition, it is our meeting place where practitioners working on digital inclusion can come together to support and learn from each other, to foster new ideas and partnerships, and to inform strategy and advocacy when needed. And this first year, we have focused these meetings on raising awareness about resources and on um, relationship building. And so this meeting is no different. We'll be hearing from an exciting lineup of speakers that I hope will inspire you and give us new ideas for partnerships and strategy. With the time change and with the weather delays and prior commitments from our presenters, we have changed our agenda slightly. So first is a presentation by Lisa Fikes from the Leadership Center of Arlington about leadership and out-of-the-box thinking related to leveraging volunteers. And then next, we'll hear from Liza Wilson-Durant, who's Associate Provost at George Mason and Director of the Northern Virginia node of the Commonwealth Cyber Initiative. Then we'll hear from Chanel Highsmith, who is at GMU also in their Office of Community Engagement and Civic Learning. And then finally, Anne-Marie Guzzi from Levy, who will give a presentation on how her strategic design company co-built an AI upskilling cohort with the DC Public Library earlier this year. And then after these presentations, I'll also share a few things to come as we look to 2026, which is going to encompass some strategy discussion about what's ahead for the coalition, and that'll be the topic in our Q1 meeting. So before we jump in, though, I wanted to take a moment for us to hear from each other about the new and good things progressing digital equity forward. So for those of you who are new to this, it's just a way for us to celebrate each other, for us to learn what each other's doing, and also just think positively as we engage in this work. So if you are interested in sharing, feel free to put your screen on, put your video on, and raise your hand, and I'll call on you. So Donna?
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thanks for holding this despite the snow, Jennifer. So at Computer Core, we have now trained about 14 digital navigators who are ready to go at your locations in Arlington. We've been working with Heather for a couple placements a couple days a week at the libraries. But we need a lot more placements. So we're really pleased to have all these folks ready to go. So there's sort of two announcements. One is let us know if you want a digital navigator and when, and you can email me. I'll put my email in the chat. The other thing is if you have people on your team or among your clientele who want to be digital navigators, we have a little bit different plan than we had before. So we were just going to take a few and they'd work lots of hours. Now we're going to take a lot of people and they'll work a few hours. And we're kind of working the whole thing out, but please feel free to continue contacting me with placements and navigators. Thanks.
Awesome. Brian, you have your hand up next.
So just a couple of kind of maybe three interesting updates. One, we have kicked off we've completed our fall program at Barcroft Community Center. This is coding for kids, grades 3 through 8. We've run 2 different sessions for elementary and for middle schoolers.
Yes,
and
it's back.
Great sessions. The second piece is kind of 2 crossovers. We are in the process of moving our other clubhouse, which is this Saturday morning coding thing, from Marymount University over to Arlington Mill. and we're going to use the Aspire space. And so that was something that we kind of dreamed of when we got this equity grant, that fueling the Barcroft thing would allow us to also get something going in Arlington Mill. And the Arlington Mill location is better because we can reach more of kind of the, the underserved kids, in that part of Columbia Pike, who won't come all the way over to Marymount University, right, because of transportation issues. And then the third thing is one of our administrators at the Barcroft Clubhouse actually is taking training with Computer Core, Maribel. Yeah. And so every time I run into her, she's so excited about what she's doing over there and all. And she's dragged her daughter in, who used to be one of our instructors, to help over there also. So it's kind of cool to see all of these cross connections coming together. So that's it. That was long. Sorry.
No, that's really exciting to hear. And it's really exciting to hear sort of the cross collaboration that's happening. Barbara, you have your hand up next. Oh, I don't think I can't hear you. No, I can't hear you. Maybe try exiting the meeting and joining again. While you do that, I have some new and good news that I wanted to share. So shortly after our last coalition meeting in October for Digital Inclusion Week, we had hosted an event called Where Home and Homepage Intersect, and it focused on the intersection between affordable housing and digital equity, because October was also Affordable Housing Month. So we wanted to celebrate both. And several of the coalition members, all of the participants were coalition members. So Melanie Fike, Marquand Jackson, Howard Salad-Key, Brian Moran, Donna, Holly, Lou, they came together and we had kind of a panel discussion with the affordable housing developers around challenges to providing free or subsidized internet. And there's some really great ideas shared by both Marquand and Melanie during that time, and it's recorded, so you guys could go back and watch if you want. But then we had kind of a lightning round presentation from the technology service providers who have had a strong partnership with affordable housing communities and have worked closely with them. And so it was a really cool event, I think, and it was a great way to celebrate, the work that's being done. And I thought it was would have liked to have gotten more, but we got 40 people and we recorded the meeting. So a lot of people actually from a pretty diverse pool attended or have asked for the recording. So that was pretty exciting. Anyone else have anything to share? Okay, well, I have actually, okay, Doug, you have something?
I do. Good morning. I'm Doug Frost. No other jokes, please. To the Alliance for Arlington Senior Programs. We continue our efforts for our Internet Access Project running. We've just graduated our 240th student after 3 years of support from the county's original grant, and now we have the Digital Equity Grant, which we have begun implementing with additional classes for low-income Arlington seniors, for computer classes and help desks at 5 affordable housing sites and 2 community centers. We've had mixed results with the help desks, very popular at the community centers, less traffic at the affordable housing communities. So we're beginning to adjust the program, and we did indicate that this was a pilot project. We were trying to figure out where the needs were and how best to meet those needs. So the help desks, which are for 2 hours a week, we're going to be shifting the emphasis more to the community centers. but we're very excited about adding additional computer classes and help desks with the very generous assistance of the Equity Coalition grant. So that's where we are. Thanks.
Awesome. I actually wanted to lift up actually the Alliance, and I see that Linda is on. So Linda, I don't know if you want to share, but I wanted to just give you guys celebrate the work that you did with Connected Nation at the end of October. So if you want to share, go for it. But if not, I can.
Oops. No, I can go ahead. Yeah, actually, because this meeting became virtual, I was able to attend. I'm actually in North Carolina right now. And but we, you know, at the end of October, we did it with Connected Nation. Everybody that attends is so excited to get more basic training. You know, some of them were returnees from the last time they wanted refreshers, but we had a number of new people also. And it went really well with that. And I'm working on part of the grant that Doug talked about, and we're working on getting some AI classes and some other things in the senior centers, community centers. So
Awesome. That's great. The other thing that I wanted to share, just to give a shout out for what's ahead, our Department of Technology Services, the cybersecurity team within Department of Technology Services is hosting a cybersecurity workshop on December 9th in the evening. We have information on our webpage, but Hoya Abbey and Kenneth Knight are the staff who will be leading that. And it's really just like basics of cybersecurity and how to protect yourself, and what to think about as you kind of navigate online. So feel free to attend, but also to share with your clients and folks that you work with. Anybody else have anything new and exciting to share? Doug, I see your hand is up. Did you have anything else, or do you need to lower your hand?
I need to lower my hand.
Okay. All right. Okay, well, one of our speakers, actually our next speaker, was having some technical issues about she couldn't hear us. And I'm just wondering, Lisa, if you're on and if you can hear. We can. Okay. Okay, so it seems like Lisa is still having audio issues, and so is Barbara. And so, okay, so we can, let's see if another one of our speakers is ready. So I think we had Liza Durant next. So I don't know if you're here, Liza, and you're ready. If you want, you can kind of jump into your presentation. If not,
Yes.
okay.
Yes, I'm ready. I can do
Okay,
that.
cool.
Sure,
Yeah, thanks
no
for
problem.
the pivot. I appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem. Let me try to share my screen. 1 second. This works. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, it's loading. And do you see a presentation?
Yep.
Yep.
And is it full screen or?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, terrific. It's not full screen for me, so hang on 1 second. Close out the chat. Okay, so, well, thank you so much, Jennifer, for having me. I really appreciate it. It's exciting to meet a new group of people. Some of you I've met before and worked with on various initiatives, but it's always nice to enjoy a new group. And I look forward to hearing, from the other presenters today and hearing comments and questions. So I'm Liza Wilson Durant, and I'm Associate Provost for Strategic Initiatives at George Mason. I'm also a professor and Associate Dean in our College of Engineering and Computing. And today I'm going to focus on the hat that I wear, where I'm the Director of the Commonwealth Cyber Initiative's Northern Virginia Node. So The Commonwealth Cyber Initiative, hopefully some of you have heard of it. Maybe even some of you have taken advantage of some of the programs that we have. It's a $17.5 million investment by the Commonwealth of Virginia to help elevate and establish Virginia as a global leader in cybersecurity. We first received this funding around 2019, and it's been a line item in the Commonwealth budget since then. And I always say that $17.5 million isn't really enough money to establish a global leader in anything. But what it does enable us to do is to seed a number of initiatives that will help feed much larger initiatives, much larger opportunities to garner more resources. So did you see my slide change? I just want to make sure. Yes, slides
Yep,
changed.
we see the slide change.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we use these resources every year to make investments in three areas. One is cybersecurity research, one is workforce development, and the other is innovation and entrepreneurship. And the Commonwealth Cyber Initiative works on a hub and node model. So there is an entity that sort of helps coordinate the 4 nodes in the Commonwealth. And that's sort of an overarching administrative group we call the hub. And then there are 4 nodes. The Northern Virginia node is led by George Mason University and myself. I've led the node since its inception back in 2019. And the Commonwealth is split up that way because what we try to do is encompass the activities of all of the public universities in our node, as well as public school systems, as well as industry and nonprofit partners, and all the other different coalitions, frankly, including this one, who are doing work in this space in various forms. So today, I welcome this coalition to be part of the Northern Virginia node and keep an eye on our initiatives and participate as you see fit. So you can see that our node is quite large. And so not surprisingly, while we make investments in those 3 areas, we are heavily invested in workforce development and innovation and entrepreneurship. This is what I call by the numbers, sort of our impact measured in some ways over the last year. We do a lot of workforce programs, so we do reach a lot of students, and I call them students. I don't just mean high school students or K through 12. I mean anyone who is working towards skills, knowledge, and abilities in cybersecurity. We also touch many companies who are hiring these people, who are partnering with us on research and entrepreneurship. And our research investments have drawn an additional $36 million of research funded by other outside entities to Northern Virginia. And we create internships and apprenticeships, and we track the number of hours of contact time and training. There's a QR code there that will lead you to the Northern Virginia Nodes website, and I can also send these slides out for Jennifer to distribute. So I'll talk about the 3 investments, and I'll heavily focus on the workforce one, since that's probably the one of most interest to this group. But just taking a look at our research investments, not surprising, our node is very focused on research investments around national defense, partnering with the federal government, as well as the cybersecurity of transportation networks. On days like this, when the region's vulnerable, we're concerned not just about the condition of roadways, but also the condition of our signaling systems, for example. So we're very interested in securing infrastructure at large. We also do a good bit of work in securing the manufacturing and supply chain. We're also looking at the impacts of human behavior on cybersecurity, as well as looking at how humans and machines are interacting these days and how we can make sure that these environments are cyber secure. So we make those investments really through grants. We have calls for proposals. We invite faculty from, again, public institutions of higher ed to make proposals. And sometimes they work with other entities and make subawards. So moving on to the workforce investment. So our goal is really to widen the cybersecurity pipeline. So you all are probably know that there are more than 50,000 open cybersecurity roles in Virginia alone right now. And if you add on AI roles and other IT related roles, it moves into the hundreds of thousands. And we know that if we graduate every single person who's studying cybersecurity right now in one of the institutions of higher ed or even IT and related fields and put them in those jobs, we still couldn't possibly fill those jobs. So we have been looking for ways to broaden that funnel of potential cybersecurity people with those skills at all different levels. And we've also had a major focus on diversifying the talent. We really do believe that a diversity of perspectives fuels innovation. And so we want a very diverse workforce working in the cybersecurity space. So we fund a whole host of various initiatives. We've done these over many years. So we feel that some of our programs have really excellent and impactful models. And so we continue to fund them over time. Other programs we funded for a period of time and we've retired them to make room for new ones. Our budget in the Northern Virginia node is $2.5 million, and that budget has not changed since 2019. So just to briefly tell you about our different internship opportunities, we do have a number of subsidized internships. We have one that is purely focused on cybersecurity startup companies. So companies that are defined as small startup new entities, we can match them with an intern from one of our Northern Virginia node public institutions of higher ed. We also support college internships for any company, large or small, as well as government entities. I see some of my colleagues from Arlington County on the phone. So, we can provide interns for you at no cost, and you can select your interns from a pool of applicants, and then we can go ahead and pay them for you. We fund these internships year round. So we're not just talking about summer internships, we're talking about internships throughout the year. We also have a wonderful high school internship program. I know some of my colleagues from Arlington Public Schools are aware of this program and their students have participated. We have a call for applications from the high school students open now. We do this program in partnership with the Children's Science Museum since they are very well versed in working with minors. Colleges don't tend to be so great at working with those under 18, so we partner with them. It's a fantastic program, not just because we're placing high school students in cybersecurity positions, but we provide a 2-week boot camp in advance that really helps them with their interpersonal and professional skills. So when they emerge from those 2 weeks, they're really ready to hit the ground running with their internship. So that's a very exciting program. And we do track those students as they move on to college and then continue in their cybersecurity trajectory. So all of those internship programs are really designed to give those hands-on learning opportunities to high school and college students because we know that classroom learning is not enough to be effective in a cybersecurity role. Now, thinking about more widening that pipeline, because I said if we graduated those people and put them in jobs, we still need more. So we have a apprenticeship program. We call it a traineeship program, so it's not confused with federal apprenticeship programs. Now, this program is open to anyone. They need not have any previous cybersecurity training. We've had people come from backgrounds in psychology and business, transitioning military. We even had a lawyer. So these are people who have decided that they want to get those skills, knowledge, and abilities in cyber and make a career change or even start their career because maybe they majored in something that just isn't the right fit for them right now and they're ready to make that shift. So we invite applicants. The first year we did this, we had 400 applications for 20 slots. Very competitive, but very exciting. We get some great candidates, and we put them through 7 weeks of full-time cybersecurity training, and we pay them to do that training. So they can go ahead and stop working at whatever else they were doing, and then we place them in 12-week apprentice programs with various industry partners or government partners. So again, those of you who have the capacity to take on an apprentice, we will pay them. So at no cost to you, we will place one of these apprentices with you for 12 weeks. And of course, our hope is that you're going to hire them at the end of that time. But even if you're not able to, that 12-week experience with you will really set them on a course to being able to get a well-paying job in cybersecurity now that we've trained them and given them those real-world skills. We run a variety of other programs. I won't get into the details, but many of our programs, again, are really designed to give people hands-on learning, and we're really looking at, K all the way through gray. And I'd love to talk to others about programs that you have, and maybe there's some synergies of the programs that you're running with ours, and maybe we can work together so that we can scale our impact. These are just some statistics on our high school internship program. Again, it's very competitive. Right now, we're running our program with 40 positions, 40 placements, so it's a really robust program. Here are some of the host companies for our college and university internships. So many of the household names that are doing work in government contracting and national security are part of our CCI Nova Node partners. And then our apprenticeship program, again, we're very proud of how diverse it is, how our impact on diversifying the cybersecurity pipeline, and excited about the number of women and veterans that are in this program. And we will be running another cohort this year, opening up applications in the spring. The last program area is entrepreneurship, and we do support startups or people who are working on innovative cybersecurity ideas that come out of university. And it's a very competitive program. Again, we invite calls for proposals, and then we make $75,000 awards and put those new startup or new entity, new ideas through a 5-month, very intensive training program that helps move them from somebody with an idea to somebody with an idea that can be commercialized. So we work on customer discovery, mentoring, pitching, introducing them to venture capital, angel funding, and so forth. And we've so far to date incubated and accelerated 34 new cybersecurity entities, some of which have been acquired or had other exits that have been in the multi-million-dollar level. So we're very excited about that program, and it does tie to our workforce because we do place students as interns with many of these companies. So that's a really exciting opportunity for people trying to get into cybersecurity, actually work with a startup, because they get to do so many more activities than they might if they're working with a large company. They get to wear a lot more hats. This is the outcome of our programs last year. This was an independent study conducted by RTI International. We invite RTI to come in every year and sort of review all of our programs and look at the impact, the economic impact on those programs in the Commonwealth. That's how we truly measure our impact, is on the economic impact in the Commonwealth. And so our Northern Virginia node has done quite well, and we're proud of what we've been doing. I'm going to just cover one other topic that I had been planning to cover if we were in person very briefly, and then I'm happy to answer questions if there's time. So we were going to meet in a brand new innovation building on the George Mason campus today, and I invite you to let me know if you ever want to come back for a tour. But this building was completed in June, and what's very exciting about it is that it is a hub of innovation. It is not just another academic building on the campus of George Mason in Arlington, but it also is home to 125,000 square feet available for lease by industry partners. So we have industry folks working in digital innovation side by side with George Mason faculty and students who are working in digital innovation, topics such as AI and robotics, augmented and virtual reality, of course, cybersecurity. We have a small modular nuclear reactor control center simulator in the building. We work on next-G security. We're working on digital artifact recovery and forensics, just a whole host of areas of activity around digital innovation. There are 50,000 square feet of laboratories in the building, tremendous event space that can support up to 1,500 people. It's just a very exciting, vibrant place, and really meant to showcase not just what George Mason's doing in digital innovation, but what the community is doing. We do lots of training. There are a lot of classrooms, lots of events. There are events daily. And so this would have been one of those events that was taking place on our campus, and we were going to offer you all a tour. So I extend that invitation, Jennifer, in the future. Should you all decide to come back over, we can certainly have a tour and enjoy being in the beautiful space, which we really hope will continue to accelerate innovation and also be a magnet for companies, for entities in the region who are doing the work that you all are doing. So with that, I'll stop. My last slide does have my contact information, and you can contact me at ldurant2@gmu.edu, or you can contact me and my program manager, Jordan Mason, at our generic Nova CCI email. So that's novacci@gmu.edu. And I don't know if I have time for questions, Jennifer. I'll let you decide that.
Yeah, I think we should give some time for questions. There was one in the chat. You answered a part of it, which was wanting your contact info. But Brian, I don't know if you want to expand on the question that you have in the chat. He's ultimately sharing that Boolean Girl is developing a middle school cyber course and wanted to know of any good resources and if you could collaborate. Maybe something that you guys could talk about more offline. But
Yeah,
Brian,
I'll
did you
just
want
make
to add
a
to that?
I'll make a comment about that. So one thing that the Commonwealth Cyber Initiative doesn't do, and that is part of our founding legislation, is that we don't do any curriculum development, course development. We don't use any resources to teach. We can train for experiential learning, but we don't, we're not supposed to do any curriculum development. With that said, we have partnered with cyber.org in the past. For several years, we ran a teacher training program that was open to all teachers in the Commonwealth who were involved in public school systems. And we brought these teachers together. We worked with cyber.org and leveraged their curriculum online and had a great program, so much so that cyber.org sort of took it over and now they offer it as part of their offering. So I think cyber.org does have a lot of really good resources and for middle school. So if you haven't checked there, I would check them out.
Perfect.
Awesome.
That's great. I will check them out.
Cool.
Just related to that, I understand you guys can't develop any curriculum. What about like reviewing curriculum? Like we develop a course, is there somebody that maybe could look at it and say, yeah, this makes sense or this doesn't? I mean, our challenge is we don't really know cyber.
Right.
Right. And so we've got to kind of figure it out and find, it's challenging, right?
Right. I mean, again, I think cyber.org could be a really good program to work with because that's sort of the business that they're in is developing.
Okay.
They likely have modules already prepared that you could use.
Okay.
So that you actually don't have to start from scratch. You may have your own sort of case studies or examples you want to focus on, but they will have a lot of content for you. Of course, we're a very large university. We have lots of faculty that work in this area. Certainly there are subject matter experts. Whether we can get their time to review your materials, that could be the challenge. And also, I will say, our faculty are used to teaching college students, not middle school students. And so while they might be able to say your curriculum is correct, they might steer you, I'm afraid, in a direction that would not be very useful for a middle school student in terms of the ways and techniques that you employ to teach them. So we do have a group of people in our College of Education and Human Development who are excellent at working with K through 12, and they do work in the STEM area. And some of those folks might be good SMEs to review curriculum or partner with you, more so than, say, our typical cybersecurity engineering faculty who are conducting research. But if you would love to chat, check out cyber.org and then reach out to me. And if you want to pivot and go down a different road, we can talk more and figure it out.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Just to add to that before Holly, Jeff Taylor just put in the chat. He's from the Department of Technology Services, and he says he can help with reviewing any content if you'd like. So maybe you guys could reach out.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of know Jeff already, and I'm talking to him, so that's great.
Awesome. Okay, Holly?
I have one quick question and then kind of a story to share about a positive experience, because Liza, as you were talking about what CCI does, so everybody can understand, we actually partnered with CCI and Comcast on a project several years ago. And talk very quickly, it was a project around sensors, and we partnered with a professor and graduate students within George Mason that were able to access the sensor data and really dig in and understand the accuracy of the sensor data that we didn't have the resources nor the time to do. So it was an opportunity for them to learn and grow on understanding some of what the sensors say they could capture, what they are actually capturing, and then the assessment that provided us an understanding of what the accuracy was. We would never have been able to do that or fund that without the collaboration with CCI. So I was very appreciative of having that opportunity.
Was
and
that the Arlington County project? Was that Arlington?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
I
with
remember that project, and I'm very interested in other projects like that could fall under our research capability.
And so happy to have more discussions around things like that, but also very interested in connecting. And thank you for sharing your contact information. Probably have it somewhere, but on the intern side, because I think that would be absolutely of interest for us. So thank you.
Great, terrific. I'm putting my email in the chat as well since I took the slides down.
Awesome, thank you. And Donna from Computer Core just talked a little bit about how they have about 40 students who are in their most advanced program that study at higher levels and would absolutely love referrals to this kind of specialized program.
Great.
Any other questions for Eliza? Well,
so if you want to see more information about our programs, I will, while others are presenting in the chat, put the website so you can click on it. I will tell you that, so our website is a subpage of that larger website of the CCI website. And so it's easy to kind of get lost in other programs that may be in other parts of Virginia. So I'll give you both our node website and a workforce page in our node, but just know that you may end up getting off that website pretty quickly, and just reach out to us if you want a meeting and talk more, and I'll introduce you to Jordan, our program manager, who can really dig into the weeds with you guys. So thanks for the opportunity. It was nice to see you all.
Thank you for coming and presenting, and I'll certainly follow up with her presentation to the group. So Lisa is back. We've figured out an alternative solution. I am going to share her slides.
And Jennifer, I think I can share. Let's see if I can share my slides. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you and I can see your slides.
Perfect. Okay.
Perfect.
So
Okay.
we're kind of living the concept we're going to be talking today. Well, thanks everybody. And so sorry for the confusion today in my audio not working. It's kind of ironic given the topic for the day, but thanks for your flexibility and understanding. And Jennifer and Holly, thanks so much for having us. We're excited to be a part of this. Wanted to start out by sharing a little bit of who we are. I know many of you in the room and many of you might know who we are, but to give a little bit of an update of what we've been working on. And then to share a couple of frameworks we found, both with civic engagement and engaging volunteers with whatever your cause may be, whether it's digital equity or whatever the cause may be, as well as a leadership framework that we have come across that we'd love to share with you that hopefully might be of support and help to you in your work. Let's see. Well, Jennifer, maybe I spoke too soon. Let's see. Is it letting me? I guess it's not going to let me progress the slides.
Okay, if you want to.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, here we
go.
go.
That?
All right,
okay,
great.
There we go. Okay. Alrighty. Well, the Leadership Center of Arlington is the mission of our organization is to connect, develop, and inspire leaders for personal growth, for civic engagement, and community impact. And so what I'd love to do today is just remind you kind of those two pillars of leadership development, civic engagement, and the work that we do, and how we hopefully might be of support to you in your work. We do run a variety of leadership programs. Our LEAD program for established leaders, our IGNITE program for emerging leaders, INSPIRE program for rising juniors and seniors, a board training. Who knows, you might want to get some digital experts on your board if you haven't already. We run an annual leadership summit in May of each year, the Northern Virginia 40 Under 40. Impact projects where we get companies to come in and use their expertise and skilled volunteerism for projects you might be working on, possibly a space for you all in this work as well. And then through Arlington County, we run the public-private partnership of Volunteer Arlington. Through Volunteer Arlington, we connect individuals, groups, and businesses with volunteer opportunities. It's a separate website, but the same organization. We try not to just be transactional on that. We have over 300 nonprofit and county organizations who can post their opportunities on the page. We also hold various events throughout the year to really bring volunteerism and civic engagement to life with the community, whether it's celebrating volunteers through Arlington Cares, whether it's through our causes and cocktails, where we bring people together to hear about a specific cause and then connect them with the organizations that are working with that cause, or our annual MLK Day of Service, which is coming up on January 19th. There are two frameworks I wanted to share with you all today. Jennifer had asked me to come to share the second framework, but I wanted to throw this one in as an added bonus because I think as you think about the cause of digital equity, I'd like to share this framework that Points of Light, which is the global network for volunteer centers across the country and globe, to think about how to engage with causes that you care about. So what I'd like for you to do is to imagine the cause of digital equity in the center here, in the center circle where it says Points of Light. And this framework allows us to pull the lens back as it relates to volunteers, whether you're trying to get skilled volunteers, federal workers, people of all ages involved in your cause. Where does that start, and how might that look differently than what we've known volunteerism to be in the past? What I love about this framework is it really starting with listening and learning, that first circle that's down towards the left. Listening, learning to why the cause exists. You all are experts on digital equity. I am certainly not. But I think before people jump in with service, it's so important to learn the why. Why is there a need here? Why do you need their support? And so I would invite you, as you're doing your work, to think about and explore possibilities of possibly offering listen and learns to the general community about why your work matters. In addition to listening, learning, and naming that as an act of civic engagement, what are other ways that people can be involved with your cause? Obviously, we know donating matters, using their voice, being an advocate for why this cause matters. Some people are using their actual work. You all are shining examples of that to work towards this cause. Voting for people that are going to stand up for this issue. Purchasing in power, maybe not so much. Social entrepreneurship. Service is things like how the military might be involved, or other people who have their actual occupation working towards this specific cause. And then last but not least, how can you engage volunteers in your effort? I just want to hold this framework up. You can find this resource. You'll get these slides afterwards. You can also find it on the Volunteer Arlington website. But it's a great way to pull the lens back about how you can engage more people besides yourselves in the work of the cause that you care so deeply about. The next framework is more of a leadership framework that I wanted to share with you. This framework is called BANI. BANI was coined by a futurist whose name Jaime Cascio. He actually formed this model in 2018, believe it or not, before COVID. But he has a new book that just came out this past month, and it offers a new lens for understanding a fractured, unpredictable modern world. And I think as leaders, we need to not operate in our silo of the cause that we care about, but to actually pull the lens back of how are we aware of the world and the world in which we work in such a way that we're bringing that knowledge to bear with the work that we have in store. So what does BANI mean? What does it stand for? B stands for the fact that we live in a brittle world. A, we live in an anxious world. N, a nonlinear world. And I, an incomprehensible world. I'm going to let you all take that in, and you could probably all have examples in general of what these words mean and how they show up. Because of time today, I'm not going to go into all kinds of information on this, but I wanted to really do a deep dive on how these words and how this concept might relate to digital equity, and how we don't stop with the negative of that, but how we actually as leaders ask the questions of what we need in order to operate and succeed in that world. So in a world that's brittle, how are we demanding resilience, and how are we creating a space for resilience? In a world that's anxious, how are we increasing empathy, emotional clarity, and direction? In a world that's nonlinear, how are we adopting agile strategies, using a growth mindset, and improving? Jennifer and I were joking on email this morning. We are living BANI. I am living BANI in this presentation. How are we improving in the moment? And in an incomprehensible world, How are we inclusive of various voices? How are we doing sense making and being deliberate about sense making? Truth is something that's out there and not always very clear. How are we as leaders making sure that we're putting the truth out there of what the reality is? So with these antidotes to the Banning framework, how might this apply to the digital world? Again, I'm not an expert in digital equity, but I'm hoping that this offers a framework in your work as leaders to think about how to lead, how to communicate your work, and how you might engage volunteers in the midst of solving these equations. What questions should leaders be asking, and how can skilled volunteers be a part of the equation? And the brittle world in digital equity, systems look stable but can break quickly under stress. Hello, walking example this morning, right? Connectivity and devices access collapse under strain. Remote work in school during the pandemic showed that, and certainly on a snow day, we see that in effect. You all know this, you're breathing it day in and day out. Digital skill gaps leave communities vulnerable. Digital equity work must strengthen resiliency. So the questions for you as leaders, how is your organization offering the local infrastructure to strengthen this resiliency? You all are doing that. You're sharing those stories. You're getting the funds to help you in that work. It's already happening. I get that and I know that. How might it happen even more? What might it look like in the future? And how might skilled volunteers contribute to these resiliency programs? Again, I don't have the answers, but I hope that we can continue to ask the questions as leaders about how we can invite them in to this equation. In an anxious world, systems generate stress because they're unpredictable or overwhelming. And think about that not only for the people you're trying to support in that gap of digital equity, but also think about the anxious world with our federal workers and what they are going through right now and how it could be a win-win to possibly bring in some of their talent to support a system that's anxious, a gap that is creating anxiety, and potential volunteers who could find purpose through work with your causes. Digital equity work requires empathy, building trust through non-judgmental programs and community support. The questions for your organization. How are you serving as a non-anxious presence and offering empathy in this work? I know many of you and I know how you work, so I know that that's happening. But how are you holding up that question on a regular basis with your teams as you're doing your work? And how could you offer purpose and community to potential volunteers who could help reduce the digital stress for others? Again, getting back to that win-win for bringing people together to help your cause. In a nonlinear world, small shifts cascade into large, sometimes irreversible changes. You know this. Again, I'm singing to the choir here. No device, no homework, lower grades, fewer opportunities. But think about the potential if you were to open the door for businesses and where that nonlinear kind of thinking could play to your benefit. How could businesses possibly come in to provide those low-cost hotspots or refurbish laptops, unlock job access, telehealth, civic engagement? Digital equity solutions in a nonlinear world need to constantly be improvised. Something that you might be working on now is probably going to be constantly needing to be adapted and layered, staying in that moment and expecting no script and learning how to improvise in the moment. So the question for you as leaders is, how do you continue to evolve that thinking to offer strategies that meet client and community needs? And this a little bit bleeds into the next I of incomprehensible, but how are you bringing different voices to help with that strategic thinking? And how might you engage more and more sectors, businesses, stakeholders in the equation of working towards your solutions? And lastly, in an incomprehensible world, complexity can feel ungraspable. Certainly, we see this with the digital gap. We see this with everything on social media, with AI. It can be overwhelming for leaders. Technology evolves faster than the policy. AI tools are outpacing community understanding. Inequities that are embedded in the systems continue to be confusing. Digital equity efforts need translation, storytelling, and sense making to offer meaningful agency. And a variety of voices that come to the table can bring clarity to that process. So, the question for us as leaders is, how could volunteers offer sense making to support that digital equity effort? How is your organization continuing to evolve that thinking that invites a variety of stakeholders to improvise with you? I'm going to pause there and open it up for questions. And I wanted you to know that I'm well aware that I'm leaving you more with questions than anything. But the hope is that through both of these frameworks, whether it's the Points of Light Civic Circle or the Banny model, it gives you two frameworks in which to open the door for the work you're already doing, but to invite others to be a part of that equation, whether it's stakeholders in your strategic thinking to help you continue to evolve and to think differently in the work that you're doing, or whether that's inviting any and all volunteers, especially as we think empathetically about how we might invite those federal workers who have such amazing skills, whether it's the federal workers or the consultants, of which we have so many in our community, to bring them to the table to support the work that you're doing. I'm going to pause there and see if you've got any questions. Happy to engage in conversation with you about this.
Yeah, Anne Marie.
Yeah, Lisa, this was awesome. I think both of those frameworks are very, very useful. Curious of your thoughts, not just on like the recruitment of these like highly skilled volunteers, but the like kind of sustained engagement, longer term duration of making sure they stay engaged. Because I've been involved in a lot of different community organizations, and like there's all this interest at the start, and it's like getting people to stick around is the hard part. Do you have any kind of useful kind of frameworks for thinking about that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Anne-Marie, and I don't know that there's a simple solution. I think that when you're thinking about how to bring skilled volunteers to the table, what's most important is to have a clear scope of what you're asking and how long you're asking it for, almost thinking of it like a job description. The county's done some work. Mark Schwartz asked me to come in and to speak with the county leads about how to go about doing this. And I think they've had some success with a couple of these skilled volunteer positions. But I would just say that almost treat it like a job description, even though they're not necessarily getting paid for it, so that there's a real clear ask about what it is you're asking for and the time in which you're asking for that, so that you can everybody can be on the same page. It does. I don't mean to oversimplify that, but that is what I've found to be the most helpful in this, is to really professionalize the capacity building they're bringing to the table with the clear expectations and the time that you're asking for them to commit to. And then if it becomes something longer than that and it's a win-win for everybody, that's great. But to also, I think the other important element of that is it's okay to say no. If somebody comes in and it's not a good fit for what you need, to say, I appreciate it, but this is really what we're looking for in this, just like you would with a job. But we encourage you to go back to Volunteer Arlington and find something else that might fit what you're looking for. And so the okay to say no, I think is an important part of that equation as well.
Donna?
I just wanted to share a little bit. Computer Corps has over 60 volunteers every year or every term. And we found it is about probably 20% of them stick. So I totally agree with you, Anne Marie, that a lot revolve. And sometimes we're like, oh, it's so difficult. But all the great people we have working with us are all volunteers who came through the process of, figuring out who's going to stick. And some have been with us for 9 or 10 years. One thing that would be great in terms of volunteer training, and I don't know if that fits within what you do, Lisa, is reminding the volunteers, just tell us. If you don't want to come back, just say, hey, I'm leaving. But there's kind of a lot of ghosting happening where we put a lot of effort into training people and then they just disappear because they're shopping for their best volunteer effort, but they never tell us. So we've been kind of struggling with that a little bit. Thanks.
Donna, you raise a great point, and I do think that training is so important in the midst of it, and possibly thinking through as you strategize how you want to engage volunteers, how might you have different layers of opportunities? Maybe there's some things that are a one-off, or maybe a little bit of a smaller time commitment. where people can shop a variety of different opportunities to think through what those might be that actually are serving your needs. You don't want to create something that's not ultimately helping you, but to give people a little bit of a variety of things to choose from as well. And to give people in the midst of that training an exit strategy. There are going to be some times that we know where this might not land for you in the way that you were looking for or hoping for. So here's what we would ask of you, and how we would ask that you follow up with us. So Donna, that was good on the ground intel. Appreciate you sharing that.
There's a couple of comments in the chat that I just wanted to flag. Donna, actually, more of a comment, but just mentioned the computer refurbishing that Computer Core does, and that over the life cycle of their grant with Arlington County, they're going to be providing about 500 refurbished computers to Arlington residents.
Okay.
And then also Barbara mentioned, as a volunteer, I've struggled with balancing volunteerism consistently and trying to be a consultant for a fee. And once you're known as a volunteer, it's challenging to kind of get away from that perspective, that you're free and available. So I don't know if you have any comments to that.
That's a great point. I don't know what to say besides, so this is the person that is wanting to be hired after having done the volunteer work. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, and I wonder if it relates to maybe some of maybe the interest from either former or current federal workforce who are looking for something to kind of add to their resume right now, but then looking for more later. And so, kind of curious if you could speak to that.
Yeah. Well, what I can say is I do believe that it is a great volunteering is a great way to add to your skill set on your resume. So that is definitely something that's out there and that people are doing and is worth touting when you're recruiting people. As far as turning that into a job, I don't know that that's necessarily your role per se to do, but how do you open the door for that for other people? I don't know. There's not a concentrated hub for past volunteers who are looking for jobs that I know of. The only thing I know to think of is to hold up that you'd be happy to serve as a reference as they're on the job hunt and be able to speak to the skills they brought while within your framework, and hold that up as a value add in the midst of supporting their volunteer work with your organization, that you'd be happy to serve as a reference as they're on the job hunt. But I've not thought creatively about how to make that happen. And not to my knowledge, I don't know of there being a hub where past volunteers can place resumes for future job work. Maybe others do know that.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Anyone else have any comments or questions related to this topic? All right. Well, thank you very much, Lisa, for joining us and sharing about the Banny method. I really appreciate it.
Thank you all.
All right. Well, next up, we have Chanel Highsmith from GMU.
Okay, I'm turning on my audio. Can you guys hear me?
Oh, yes, we can hear you. And actually, Lisa, before you go, can you take your screen off or
Maybe
stop
if I
sharing your
start,
screen?
maybe if I start sharing, hers might pop away.
Here we go. Sorry.
Let's see.
Let me do that right now. Sorry.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay, can you guys see my slides?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Well, I think it's really great that I actually am able to go after Liza and Lisa, because mine, I feel like it's a culmination of the two. And so I also work at George Mason University. My name is Chanel Highsmith, and I'm not sure if all of you all are familiar or have ever heard of the Office of Community Engagement and Civic Learning, but we are an office that is fairly new. We started in 2022 as part of Mason's Quality Enhancement Plan. We wanted to make sure that there was a central office where external folks that were working on social impact programs, so think community-based organizations, nonprofits, even private companies that are doing corporate responsibility, so industry as well, could benefit from our office. But we wanted to make sure there was a pathway into the university. I know the university is very large and it could be kind of confusing to figure out who should I talk to if I want to connect with this particular faculty member, or who should I talk to if I want to, have a student come and work on an internship that is related to social impact work. And so this is exactly what our office can do for external folks. And so we don't necessarily do all of the programming that you want to do, but we can serve as a liaison, though we do have a couple of signature programs in our office. And so just a little bit of a to tell you our breakup of our staff. So we have 3 full-time staff members right now, and we also have 2 AmeriCorps members that are on our team that is helping us build capacity for new program and working on some anti-poverty initiatives. And then our office also really wants to remove barriers for students that want to work in the community. And so just like I mentioned before, since we are central, we are not connected to any one college or center. So for example, we're not housed in the engineering building, we're not housed in, film or the College of Education and Human Development, but because we are central, we have students that come through our office that are a part of every academic program. And so the great thing about that is it lets them know that even if I am an engineer and I'm building mechanics or prosthetics, but I really am interested in and passionate about serving my community, I can still do that. I don't have to necessarily choose between having an internship on my degree track and not having an internship that's very community focused. And so as you can see here, our values are community, learning, equity, collaboration, compassion, and justice. And this diagram really gives you a view on the type of work that we do. So the community engagement is really big because we know that we aren't going to necessarily be able to understand fully what's going on in the community unless we're engaging with the community. And that's mostly my role. And so I'm frequently out in the community at different talks, at different roundtables, so I could really get an understanding of what's going on in what region. So for example, that's why I'm here at this Digital Equity Coalition. I'm in no way an expert in digital equity, but I do know that this is something that is really important to our community. So I'm here to explore and make connections and hear what's going on so I can see if there's an opportunity for us to have some sort of partnership, or if there's a synergy, and if there's a faculty member that's working on something that has told me that they're looking for a community partner for their project, then I can make that connection for them. And also we host community engagement events at George Mason, so you guys can come to campus. And we also remove barriers for you coming to campus. So I am not at the Arlington campus. I am in the Fairfax campus. So I wanted to make sure that I made that clear. However, all of our partners are all over the DMV. We have people in DC, we have people in Maryland, and then of all the counties that are in Northern Virginia that come to our campus. But I know that parking can cost, so we make sure that we pay for your parking when you come to some of our community engagement events, as well as we usually host meals and lunch, and I can go a little bit more into that. So when we have an event, there's no barriers. We try to remove all the barriers so you guys can participate in our programming. And then the student programming, what makes it accessible for them is that we provide paid opportunities for them to work into the community. We know that a lot of students do want to volunteer, but sometimes when they have to choose between volunteering and working, they will choose to work because they have financial obligations. And so we want to make sure that they can still do what they're passionate about and get paid at the same time while they're doing it. And so on this page, I really want to focus on our signature paid student experiences. And this is where you also come into play and how you can have a practical way on how to work with students that are in our office. So our first program is our Bonner Leader program. This is a program that lasts 4 years And in a year since, that means an academic year. So think about September to May. And these students applied to this particular leadership program when they are seniors in high school, and they go through an application process with our office, and they also interview with community partner sites. So think you guys, you put in a proposal and say, hey, I'm looking for a student that could work on social media for our digital equity or our digital programs, or someone that could help work with our clients. We have students that work at food pantries, students that are creating volunteer modules, students that are working at Catholic Charities, Just Neighbors, Bright Paths. And so really, whatever you feel like you need a student to come in and help build capacity for you for, you can apply to have a student work with you for 4 years. And so they start as a freshman and when they come to George Mason, and they stay until they're a senior. And so this program is actually a national program. And the goal is for them to really start their first year with seeing the whole infrastructure of your agency. So they may learn about the development, they may learn about admin, they may learn about public relations, they may learn about the direct services that you're providing for your community members. Any way that your organization is set up, they usually like to touch different areas that first year. The second year, they may have something specific that you find is a gap and you want them to work on. And so they'll usually work on that for like their second and their third year. And then their fourth year, they're working on a capstone project where it talks about the culmination of their whole experience with you in your program. And then they'll present it to you, and they'll also present it to the George Mason community. And so I did hear that with volunteers, I know their commitment levels are different. And so these particular programs can be helpful in that sense where you have a dedicated student or students. Some organizations have 3 or 4 students that come through our office that can stay with them for 4 years. And they usually work about 8 to 10 hours a week. So you would have to see on your end if you have the commitment to supervise a student, because there's goals, but then also the students apply to our program because they are committed to doing this work. And the great thing is that it's a cohort program. So I think we have about 16 students a year, but they're learning every year about leadership development. How do I ethically engage with the community? What does equity mean? What does social justice mean? And they're reflecting every week in our office as well. So there's a classroom component where they're being taught everything, and they're sharing their experiences with their peers and what they're doing. The Civic Fellows program, very similar to the Bonner program, but instead of 4 years, it's 1 year. And they also work about 8 to 10 hours a week. The Engage Summer program, also very similar, but instead of it being an academic year, it is a more intensive summer program. So they're usually working about 30 hours a week. So think if you have like a summer camp or something specifically that's happening for you in the summer, would it be where it would be great to have more hands-on support, but then you also have the capacity to mentor the student, to teach the student, and you're okay with them just being there for 6 to 8 weeks, and you have that infrastructure, then this program will be really good for you. And I would say that these students get paid about $16 an hour, just to kind of give you an idea on how they're compensated. Now, say if you do not have the capacity to work with the student 8 to 10 hours a week during the school year or 30 hours a week during the summer, we also have the community-based federal work study program. I'm not sure if everyone is familiar with the federal work study program, and I'm not sure how it's going to change with changes in the Department of Education, but what it is that when students apply for their FAFSA, they put in their application and they're told whether they have a student loan that they can apply for, or like the Pell Grant, or something called federal work study, which is a pot of money that the Department of Education sets aside for a student while they're in college, so they could work and they get tax-free dollars essentially. So their paycheck comes to them, it's tax-free, and it's just already money that is earmarked for them. And so usually I think it could be about $5,000 a year, and they could break it up however they want to break it up. So say if you want to volunteer that qualifies for federal work study, you could have them work with your organization and get paid by this pot of money that comes from the Department of Education. If you're interested in that, reach out to me and I can give you more details on how that works. So typically, when they work on campus, 100% of their paycheck comes from the federal work study. But when they work in the community, 75% of their hourly wage comes from the pot of money, and 25% usually comes from an organization. So this is even helpful for folks that are on the call that may not be looking for a volunteer but need another part-time staff member, but you may have challenges in the financial structure at your organization and you cannot hire someone with the compensation that you want to give them. You can look into this community-based federal work study program to have more financial support for that. We also do, apart for these programs, we also do Mason Votes. We partner with the League of Women Voters, and we set registration tables all across campus to make sure that students are registered to vote. And so this also goes back to that civic engagement piece. And I'm glad that Lisa was talking about that as well, that we just have so many opportunities for students to be engaged with the community and with their and building their civic knowledge and their civic identity through our office. Now, what can we do for you guys in addition to just placing students through our programs at your sites and teaching them? We have a community of practice. So if you're in our Bonner program or if you're in our Civic Fellows program, there's a space where all of our supervisors that are at the community-based organizations can come together and work together to see, you know, this was my success. I worked with a student this way, and this was really helpful for them. Because remember, a lot of them are 18 and they're coming out of high school. So they're also building their professional development. And so that gives you an opportunity to be in a group where you guys can share successes and challenges. We can do advertising for you. So we have a newsletter, we have a website. We could put if you have a volunteer opportunity that you want to get out to a broader community, I can help you do that at George Mason on our newsletter and our website. Faculty connection. So if you want to work with the faculty member in their classroom, some faculty members do community-based learning courses, service learning courses. I can help facilitate those connections on both ends. So the faculty member may want me to help them build a connection, and sometimes community partners want me to help them build a connection. So I could do that facilitation. Research support, which could be really helpful. Say you want to apply for a grant for something specific and you want to partner with a faculty member, you don't know where to start. I can help you with that. Space rentals. So if you want to do an event at George Mason, I can help kind of give you the ins and outs on what to do. It's not something that is necessarily free, but there may be a way to subsidize it or me help you figure out where you could get some space. I talked about this already. And the two events that, this is my last thing that I want to highlight that's really important. We do a service fair every year that's free to community-based organizations. So we've had Alexandria Public Schools, Fairfax County Public Libraries, Catholic Charities, the Lorton Community Action Center, organizations all over. So this past year, we had about 60 organizations on campus. And this was a service fair is essentially like a volunteer expo or a volunteer fair where students, it's in the heart of campus, it's outside usually. Students just kind of walk through the fair and you get to share your social mission with them and recruit for volunteers in real time. And also, we market it to faculty members where they can come to the fair as well, because they may want to work with a community organization when they're doing their research or they're building their curriculum. So it's just a way to get your face on campus and make those in-person connections. And then our last annual event that we do is a collaborative roundtable event. is where we have a panel that talks about a particular social issue that's prevalent. And it usually includes a student, a faculty member, and a community partner laying the groundwork of that social issue. And then the roundtables that includes students, faculty, and community partners, they come together and say, okay, how can we have collaborative scholarship? How can we have collaborative projects? How can we work together? I know the university is big. It's taking up a lot of space in Northern Virginia. So we want to make it clear to all of the external entities that we are here to work with the community, not just push out research and never talk to our community. And so our hope is that at these engagement events that you're able to see the culture at George Mason, that we want to work together. So if anyone has any questions, definitely ask me. Now I'm open to answer anything. And if you want to sign up for our newsletter, please use the QR code right there.
We have one question or one comment in the chat from Treylon Shorter. She says, it's awesome. She runs the Youth Democracy Institute and looking for community partners and capacity support for summer programs. When's the next fair?
So we do the fair once a year, and my goal is to extend it to twice a year, but right now it's in the beginning of the fall semester. So this year was in September. So the next one is planned for next semester unless we end up doing one for the spring.
Okay. Nicole, you have your hand up.
I'm Nicole Duraco. I work for Arlington Public Schools, specifically at the Arlington Career Center, which is the current technical education high school for all of APS. We have a high school internship program. Senior year, our students from Arlington Tech, which is the early college high school, we're dual enrolled with Nova. Our students have, like an abridged schedule so they can get out and work. We have a lot of kids that are interested in research and a lot of kids that are interested in their own projects. So just wondering, if that's could be.
That's a great question. So, oh, you cut off a little bit. But yeah, I think I heard most of what you were saying. That's a great question. So if you're looking for something, I have a couple of things that I'm thinking about. If you're looking for a pathway potentially for these students in our office, especially for our Bonner program, we are trying to market to all of the K through 12 school districts. This is an opportunity for them to have a scholarship and stay in the community if they go through our Bonner program. And so that application cycle usually comes in the springtime. So this could be something that you're sharing with your high school seniors. They go to school and they already have a job. And that's removing financial barriers for them. And then two, we have a couple of programs on campus that works directly with K through 12 students. We have the early identification program, and others as well. I'm not sure if you've heard of that program, but that could be opportunities for students to do research. And then you have faculty members that are just interested in giving accessibility to seniors in high school, and they could come and create devices with them, or we have like pitch programs and things like that in the business school. So there's ways that we could get high school seniors exposed to George Mason through some specific programs as well. And we can also talk offline and I can give you a few options and some connections to make.
Great. Melanie?
Yes, thank you for all this. This all sounds so exciting. I'm Melanie. I'm with Affordable Homes and Communities Resident Services, and I think we actually have a lot of opportunities for collaboration. So how would we move forward? Is there like a link I can apply to, or should I just connect with you offline?
Yep. If you sign up for our newsletter, I always put information out when applications cycles are coming, when events are coming. And also if you email me directly, we can have a one-on-one meeting and you can tell me a little bit more. We have some affordable housing community partners that have engaged with us before, like Wesley Housing has been on campus before at our service fair. I don't think we've had any students in paid programs at an affordable housing community site, which is a good thing because then you're kind of like spreading, like you're diversifying our portfolio. So even if you want to apply to have a student engage with you for an entire academic year or for 4 years, that's something that we could do. But yeah, and I also run a prospective partner information session about once a month, and I go in a little bit more detail, and it's a space where we could talk through specific organizations' needs.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Great. There's a couple of comments in the chat, and then we should likely move on to our last speaker just for time. But Detta asks, is there room to work with her organization? She does some work with NAACP on voter engagement and wanting to know if there's some possible collaborations and connections there.
There actually, there may be, I know my director is the one that runs our Mason Votes initiative, and I can put you in contact with her, and you guys can definitely talk through that. So definitely reach out to me with my email that's listed here.
And then the last one is just a comment from Donna about having adult students join the BIS program at GMU. And they've gained bachelor's and master's degrees. And I guess maybe that's been successful, wondering how to facilitate more adults entering GMU through that BIS program, the Bachelor of Individualized Studies.
Yes, I would just connect you with that academic program. I could give you a warm handoff to them, and then they would be the ones that are the experts in that and could share that information.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Chanel. This was really exciting.
Guys.
And I actually got to attend one of the roundtables as part of her Engage series. It was on like misinformation. It was really fascinating, and I really enjoyed being a part of that. So next up is Anne Marie from Levy.
All right. Yeah, thank you. I'm going to get my screen shared. All right, folks can see that?
Yep, you're good.
Awesome. Great. Great. So excited to be here today. This is my first Digital Equity Coalition meeting. It's been cool to hear about all the different things that everybody else has going on. But I'm Anne Marie. I'm here with Levy to share a little bit about a project that we did in collaboration with the DC Public Library, as well as some of the kind of things that have gone and happened after that. But I'll just kind of get into it for the sake of time. So what we did from August through October, so for 12 weeks, there were 50 ex-federal workers, federal adjacent, folks that were job seeking, people that had, often 15 plus years of experience, often multiple master's degrees, kind of participated in this prototype that we built to learn how to build together, to build with AI, to do that all in the public library. And so this all came together very, very rapidly. The idea kind of initiated with Chelsea Kirkland at DC Public Library in late May, early June. We got the application live for the program in July, and the program actually started in August and ran for 12 weeks through the end of October. And then the really cool thing is that some of the people that have been involved in that pilot program, as well as other people that learned about it as it was happening, have started to spin out a new community organization to continue the learning. So to talk a little bit about kind of how we designed it, what outcomes we were able to create with it, and kind of where things stand now. But excited to share that with the group here. And there is actually it fits in well with some of the topics earlier today, especially that volunteerism discussion from Lisa, because that is like a kind of core thread of how this was all possible, was because of people that very generously got involved and gave their time. So I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of who we are as Levy, talk a little bit about why this pilot happened, and I'm going to have Chelsea Kirkland, who is our partner at DC Public Library, share a bit about kind of her original vision for it. Talk about what we co-designed together, what we learned, and then where things are at now, and then hopefully have time for questions at the end. So who are we? Despite running an AI program, not AI experts. So, know enough to be dangerous. I use it in my day-to-day work, but definitely not, don't consider myself to be an AI expert by any stretch of the imagination. Levy's role in this project was really to help figure out what the program was going to look like, and then also be the connective tissue into the AI expertise that does exist in the DC tech community. And so we did some program design, and then we did some of that kind of community building and network building work in this program. And so more broadly, we are a strategic design company. We work with public institutions, we work with community organizations, and we work with local innovators, often in technology companies and startups, to help build infrastructure for the region that we need, but we don't have yet. We do this in 3 parts. So we work in our studio on consulting projects that look like the project that we did with DC Public Library. We also have a network of kind of active, innovating founders, public servants, community leaders, technologists that are all working on their own kind of interesting and remarkable projects, but also come together to support the work that we are doing as well. And then what we learn from our projects, what we learn from our network, we take into our kind of think tank arm and do research on what is actually working, what frameworks are actually working, and how can we disseminate those frameworks to people that are doing the work. So that's kind of a little bit about us. We are very, very deeply formed by the work we did with the library. So Brendan and I, who's my co-founder, and Levy, originally met about 2 years ago through organizing a local tech community called DC Tech Meetup. In this spring, we had started talking about wanting to do more work together, like this. And as soon as we had that conversation, I think a week or 2 later, Chelsea kind of approached us with the idea for this library pilot. And so this was our first project as an organization. It shaped a lot of how we think about our work. It shaped the kind of work that we want to do moving forward. And it was just a really, really valuable experience for us to be able to kind of actively experiment, iterate, and learn in partnership with, like, what I would argue is probably one of DC's most trusted public institutions, and do that with a group of people that were all kind of curious, actively wanting to learn, actively wanting to kind of improve their skill sets. And so that has really gone into the work that we want to do moving forward as well. All right, so before I talk about the library pilot a bit more, I want to talk about kind of where things actually stand today. So the pilot ran for 12 weeks, August through October. And then very quickly after, the Upskilling Labs, which is a new community organization that has kind of spun out of the community from the pilot at the library, held their first meeting. And so we've got some of the folks from that community on the phone today. I know I saw Sandra in the chat. And so I think what's really cool about what happened at the library is obviously the program created really cool outcomes for the participants, but it's kind of going on to have this long tail of impact, both within the broader DC community, and then there's also kind of initiatives that are kind of getting started at the library or furthered at the library as a result of it. So the Upskilling Labs is a new community organization that is centered around helping people that are curious about AI get hands-on with it, learn, experiment, and in general, emerging technologies, not just AI. And do that in a very like hands-on project-based way, very inspired by the work from the pilot at the library. And they are moving similar to how the pilot moved very quickly. They are moving very quickly. So the pilot project at the library ended October 28th, and the Upskilling Labs had their very first event November 2nd, so 1 week later. And they've already got an entire full calendar planned for 2026. They've got 70 members of the community. They've had over 200 people register for their event since they've launched. They've hosted 3 educational workshops, 2 meetups. They've gotten a pretty good social following, and then they're all powered by volunteer organizers, many of whom came from the library projects themselves. So that's kind of where things are now. So how did we get here was through kind of all of the work that went into the project at the library. So we're mostly here because my friend Chelsea had a very, very strong vision for what problems she wanted to solve. She is an expert in digital navigation and digital literacy, and had started to see a couple of trends of things that she wanted to try to do differently. And so that was kind of the seed of the idea. And I'll actually, Chelsea, pass it off to you to talk a little bit about some of the things that you had kind of identified as like the problem statement, and then kind of approached us about.
Yeah, thanks, Anne-Marie. So in my work as digital inclusion coordinator at the library, I was noticing every time we would try and start new classes, it was like a heavier and heavier lift to get folks out to the traditional like broadcast style classroom classroom setting. We definitely have like a set of loyalists that come to all of our programming, but we just weren't seeing as many folks prioritizing learning basic digital literacy in that traditional setting. So I started brainstorming about, ways that people could feel more engaged in the learning and researching more about alternative methods to adult education. At the same time, more and more the news is flooded with things about AI. Everybody's concerned about it. Everybody has strong feelings. It's apocalyptic. What do I need to do? What's going to happen to my job? And so I'm thinking, what's a way that people, including myself, can just like learn about AI in a way that feels sort of grounded and connected to other humans. And I said, I really would love to like just do a study group personally with other people and just talk things out. We'd been doing, before this program started, in the adult learning department at DCPL, we'd been doing a AI literacy basics class in a more traditional style. And I've been every month I iterate and make it like more and more like discussion based so that people have time to like think things through. So I said maybe I can make this into a separate program where it's a cohort and we get together and study and mostly play with AI hands-on, like dig into it. At the same time, a lot of other coworkers in the library were talking about job loss in the federal sector and what can we do to serve this population, and how a lot of our workforce and tech instruction stuff is more directed at early career folks or people who are just sort of like struggling to build basic skills. And is there a way that we could sort of include the ex-federal workers in that? Because we know that they're needing support as it relates to career transition and upskilling. So I said, I think this could be, there's something here and we could do a cohort. I said, I just need somebody that's tied in with the more AI expertise. And so Brendan and Anne-Marie definitely were like really community anchors with the DC Tech Meetup program. And I saw how they were bringing people together and really had a lot of folks in their network with a lot of interesting ideas and expertise. So I reached out to them and then we got started.
Yeah. And then things happened very quickly from there. Cool. Thank you, Chelsea. Appreciate you being able to join today. So a little bit about what we designed. And I guess at the kind of top of all of this, I want to say that a lot of how we thought about this, and with Chelsea, was, hey, we don't know exactly what direction all of these things are going to go. So we want to get some of the basic infrastructure in place, but also be able to kind of design for this system that is going to be adaptive to like the needs of the participants, and things are going to come out of it that we maybe didn't expect. And so that was really the kind of frame we had going in, was like, if we want to move quickly, if we're doing this thing that hasn't been done before, we can't possibly know exactly what's going to work at the start. But what we can bring into this is like some principles of how to structure it and how to build the relationships that Chelsea had brought us in for. So one piece of it was that relationship centric piece, the community driven validation. So even from the very, very start, in June, we hosted a series of kind of collaborative brainstorming and ideation workshops with people from both the DC Tech community, but also people that were organizing in the ex-federal worker community. And so we started with working with the people we wanted to involve from the start to figure out what it needed to look like, which I think was very important to what it ended up becoming. And then as we built the actual pilot program, we were iterating and kind of rapidly prototyping and refining in real time with the participants themselves. And so when we got feedback from those 50 people that were showing up at the library every Tuesday, and they're like, hey, I need this, hey, I need support here, hey, I wish we were doing something like this, that was something we were able to like actively and continuously integrate into what we did the very next week when we showed up the next Tuesday at the library. And so I think that was really, really critical to driving engagement with the people that were in the program, but also building those relationships that Chelsea had identified needing in the program to begin with, right? How do you get these kind of experts from the tech community, from the AI community to come in and support? And a lot of that is by having this very like kind of strong community driven ethos from the start. The next thing that we were very focused on, like Chelsea said, was experiential learning. So less of a traditional classroom model and more of a like hands-on project-based, like grapple with the tools themselves to learn them. and learn by doing. And so a lot of the way that we approached this was probably felt at times a little bit like, wait, you're just throwing me into this. But it was like followed up then very quickly with support after, when people were like, okay, I tried this, I struggled a little bit here, here's where I'm stuck. All right, now let's kind of surround you with support and help. And so it was kind of powered by the community. We were very focused on hands-on learning, and then supporting that hands-on learning with this kind of surround sound rotating bench of mentors. So like people were proactively letting us know what they needed help with. We were checking in with groups to see where they were stuck. People were kind of posting in our Slack about kind of where they were needing more support. And then Brendan and I were going out to the mentor community that we had recruited and kind of tapping people in very specific ways, right? So whether it was here's a one-on-one conversation that needs to happen to get this person unstuck with getting their like IDE set up on their laptop. Here is a workshop that needs to happen for the community because a lot of people are stuck here or wanting to learn more here. Office hours were a very productive way to involve mentors, where we kind of paired people in small groups to work through problems across groups together. And so that was really the like way we could be the most responsive to, like I said, like we didn't know exactly where this was going to go. So what we instead focused on was, let's make sure we have all these like ways to listen to what people need. And then we can bring in the support as we identify the need for it. Through this project, a couple of things that, you know, I won't say we've like scientifically proven yet. This is like one pilot and one group of people, and you have to like do this a bunch more to know that this is for sure working. But a few things that we feel pretty good about coming out of the pilot, and that will carry forward into future work we do. One is the place-based nature of it all, right? So we were meeting on Tuesdays, every Tuesday afternoon at the DC Public Library in person, right? And that was really important to driving the like durable community, durable relationships that formed here. And just building in that like high frequency in-person interaction into the program design actually helped us with the program design, right? Because we knew that we were going to get an opportunity each week to try something new or to like respond to the feedback from the group. As opposed to if you're meeting, you know, biweekly or monthly, the frequency just isn't there to be able to like get that kind of get the feedback and integrate it into what you try next. So the place-based nature of it was really important for driving the community and the relationships that we wanted to build. It also helped us drive engagement from kind of the outside community. So not the people in the program, but like the people that we wanted to have come in and support. We were able to get a lot of startup founders and technologists involved because, you know, there was this kind of reliable place that they knew where we're going to be on Tuesdays. We were able to get some workforce development groups kind of aware of our work. We even brought in speakers from employers like MasterCard in the region. And then Representative Don Beyer, who's actually Arlington's representative, actually came in and spoke at our showcase event. And so having that kind of like physical convening opportunity, I think helped us bring in a lot of these like outside supporters to support our mission. And some evidence that it's working. So about 3/4 of participants from the program at the end of the program reported meeting at least 5 or more useful connections to grow their professional networks. And so that to me is a really big indicator that we were able to deliver on driving those like real relationships that were going to be meaningful to them. Another thing that I feel like we have some evidence worked was this concept of productive struggle, right? So education by doing, show me that you tried it and then we'll bring in the support. We didn't have a set curriculum. We knew certain topics we were going to need to cover, like prompt engineering, but we didn't necessarily set out with this like step-by-step tutorial. And, you know, in week 1, we're going to bring in this mentor that does this specific thing. We were instead kind of figuring out what people needed as they went because they were kind of doing that kind of grappling with the topic themselves. That also created a lot of learning outcomes that weren't actually, I think actually Chelsea was intentional in wanting them. I think I was like, oh, that's cool. Of these, like, it's not even AI that some people learn. It's like how to get comfortable in Slack, right? And like Chelsea really pushed us on things like that of like, hey, yes, we want to teach people AI. If you're going to have everybody be in Slack, we also need to make sure that like we're making people comfortable in that tool. And so doing things like a kind of like tutorial workshop early on in the session. Also just like learning by doing there, right? If all of the program education and communications happening in Slack, then people get comfortable because they're getting the reps in with it. So I think that was like a really cool cool thing that I didn't quite appreciate at the outset that I now realize was important. And then another thing was like we had this notion of like forced progress via certain milestones. So there were like weekly updates that we were requiring kind of specific deliverables for, especially at the start of the program. We started to try to foster this like build in public culture of like, hey, show us where you're at and where you're stuck and like where other people can learn from. And then we had these kind of moments of public sharing that, if you're going to be on stage talking to people about what you're working on, it'll get you to a certain point in what you're working on just by the nature of you're going to have that moment to talk to everybody. And I think we feel that it was pretty effective because like people are reporting that they are learning what they are using, right? So almost 90% of the program participants have like this increased confidence in taking on new projects, building new skills in general, which I think is so like, yes, people learned AI skills in these 12 weeks, but mostly they learned like a set of skills to learn new skills for the future. And then 85% of participants reporting using that what they've learned is directly relevant to their job search or to their new job that they have. Because the population we were working with was mostly job seekers. And then the final piece is volunteerism, right? So we were trying to do this quickly with a very, very small team with no budget, right? And so that meant we had to design volunteerism into the structure from the start, just by necessity. And so that was, it started all the way with bringing in people to do these workshops on the design early on, to the mentors themselves were all volunteers, to the actual participants within the program stepped up and took on volunteer roles within the program. So we had 6 groups, project groups. Each of those project groups had like a volunteer lead. And then we also had some kind of horizontal programming within the pilot. And then I think the really cool evidence of all of this is that 10 of the volunteer organizers for that upskilling ops community that is spinning out were participants or mentors in the project with the library. So there's like really cool continuity there. And it's like clear that these pathways for volunteerism developed these kind of leaders of this new community. So ultimately, like where we started was Chelsea had this idea, brought us in to partner, especially on bringing in kind of the relationships and community development. We teamed up to pilot this AI upskilling cohort at the library. What that is now, in part, there's other things that if you have questions for Chelsea about kind of what's next at DCPL, I'm sure she'd love to talk about it. But one of the things that has turned into is this upskilling labs community, which meets monthly at the library, kind of the place that it was born. And kind of, we went from, hey, there's waiting engagement in classroom learning, there's job loss in the federal workforce, there's workforce disruption from AI, to, all right, what are some things that we can do in a program to help tackle that, to, hey, we actually think we have a bit of a playbook for what works here, which is really cool. So we're hoping to do more work like this. We're excited to kind of be in conversation with a couple of people about doing things like this in different communities, and also excited to be supporting the upskilling labs as they're growing and figuring out kind of what their 2026 plan is. So appreciate you all taking some time to listen to me. I wish I could have been there in person with everybody. So I'm hoping we can, in the next quarter, can be together in real life. But yeah, and thank you, Jennifer, for organizing all of us and pulling this all together.
Well, thank you very much. I want to respect time because I know we are at time. I understand if folks have to drop off. This is being recorded. So if you do, we can stay on a little bit more so we can accommodate a couple of questions. But I thought maybe we could accommodate a couple of questions. Just flagging a couple of things in the chat. You already have someone who's going to reach out to you, Barbara, who's a consultant and does work with older adults in AI. Brian Marian asked about contact info. You just shared it. And so if anyone else has a question or two, feel free. Melanie, I saw your video come on. Do you have a question? Oh, okay. Anybody else have a question for Anne, Marie, or Chelsea? Okay. Well, it was fascinating. I had the pleasure of talking to them over coffee, and it was really interesting to hear all the work that they're doing and the work that DCPL is doing as well, and excited to learn more and maybe collaborate in the future. So before we close the meeting, I did want to share a couple of items just in terms of looking ahead to 2026 and what this strategy discussion is going to look like. So during this first year, as I mentioned, I focused our meetings on resource awareness and relationship building. And then the initiatives work, a lot of it, was focused on the grants. So my big question to you and others, on this listserv is, is this the right focus, or should the coalition and the initiative focus on something else? So our first meeting next quarter, I wanted to focus again on strategic planning. So we kicked off this coalition this year in February, and we kind of had a little mini charrette. I'd like to do something similar again for quarter one of 2026, just to help give guidance and direction for our activities going into the next year, now that we've been operating for a year. So to help prepare for the meeting, I just have a couple of things that are teed up that I think will help foster a conversation. So the first is I've developed a short feedback form just to get your perspective on what you think of this coalition, of the impact that this coalition has had on your work, and your suggestions for future direction. And so that's going to be, anonymous. So that'll kind of happen over December. I'm also working on developing an annual report that's going to detail, some census data, but also some of the initiatives' work and accomplishments over this last year. And so I want to publish that before our next quarterly meeting. And then the last thing that I'm going to be doing is I want to reach out to a few of the more active and kind of successful coalitions around the country just to see what they're doing, and to synthesize some of the information to share back with you. It'd be great if some of you would like to join if you're able, but ultimately I'll synthesize my notes, share that with you before the next meeting. So I don't know if anyone has any questions or comments or thoughts about that. Or if you have any questions or comments that you just want to share as we wrap up the meeting, feel free. All right, not seeing anybody. This concludes our meeting, and I just really appreciate you all. Again, I appreciate all the speakers for the pivot, especially, and for the time that you took to put the presentations together. I thought it was really enlightening and really interesting to hear from all of you. It all kind of tied together nicely. So thank you. And thank you, coalition members, for joining on this miserably cold day. I appreciate it. I hope you all have a good holiday season. Enjoy. Bye.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Bye.
Thanks,
Take care,
Jennifer.
guys.